Hello, scholars! I'm going to be helping you with your first grade skills lessons. My name is Miss James. Let's get started on lesson 2. Today's objectives are to identify some letter-sound correspondences, write upper and lowercase letters, and decode some more CVC words. Today we're going to start looking at our code flip books. You'll see these a lot over the next few lessons. We have a consonant code flip book and a vowel code flip book. These are similar to our sound posters from kindergarten. Remember, vowel sounds are made with an open mouth, like ah and eh, eh, eh. See, my mouth is open, ah. Consonants are made with part of your mouth closed or touching, so the air is blocked, like or blocked by your teeth. When we look at our cards, you'll see that our vowel sounds are written with green, because when you say a vowel sound, you're letting the air go, like green, go. Our consonant sounds will be written in red. Here's the first letter we're going to take a look at. What is this letter sound? Ah. This letter sound is ah. What is the name of this letter? This letter's name is A. We know that ah is a vowel because it's written in green right here to tell us. Down here, we have a gray bar. This is called the power bar. This tells us how common this sound is spelled this way. The power bar on this one goes all the way across. That means it is very common. It is always spelled this way when you say ah. When there's more than one spelling, there'll be another example underneath. But for this one, we only have one. Our next sound is a vowel as well. What sound is this? This is I, I, I. What is the name of this letter? The name of this letter is I. And for our power bar, we only see one example of a spelling. That means it's going to be spelled this way with the letter I. We have another vowel. What is this sound? This sound is ah. Ah. What is the name of this sound? The name of this sound is O. This power bar goes almost all the way across. That means we're almost always going to see it spelled this way. The ah sound is spelled with an O. Next, we have a consonant. See how it is written in red? What is this sound? The sound is P. What is the letter? The name of this letter is P. We have two spellings this time. This power bar is very long. That means that it's very common for p to be spelled with one P, as in pot. This power bar is very short. That means it's not very common, but sometimes the P is spelled with two P's next to each other, like in napping. Another consonant. What is this sound? This sound is T, T. What is the letter? The name of the letter. The name of the letter is T. And we have 3 examples of spellings. The first one is just a T. T can be spelled with a T as in top. And that power bar is long, so that means it's very common to have T spelled with a T. This power bar is much shorter. This has the T sound spelled with 2 T's. Sometimes when you say T, it's going to be 2 T's, like in sitting. There's a third example of how to spell the sound T right here. This one is also not very common. The power bar is very short. And we're not going to learn about this today because we haven't come across it yet. Let's look at our next consonant. What sound do we have here? We have the sound K. What letter is this showing us? Here we have a C. That means the K sound can be spelled with a C. That power bar is pretty long, but not all the way across. So it's pretty common for the K sound to be spelled with a C. The K sound can also be spelled with this letter. What is the name of this letter? This is a K. Sometimes when you hear K, you'll write a K. This power bar is shorter than the C power bar. That means it's less common than the C, but it still happens quite a bit, like in kid. There's 2 more spellings. These ones are not very common. Their power bars are shorter. C, K together can say K, like in black. C, C together can say K, like in hiccup. Hiccup. That means usually you'll spell K with a C or a K, but sometimes you'll need a C and a K together, or 2 C's. Let's look at our next consonant. What sound do we have here? Here we have N. N can be spelled with this letter. What is this letter? This is the letter N. The power bar is almost all the way across. That means it is very common for the sound N to be spelled with an N, like in nut. We also have 2 N's together. Sometimes you'll have 2 N's that make the sound N. The power bar is much shorter, so it's not very common, but the word running has 2 N's together. And you'll see we have a third spelling as well. We haven't learned about this one yet, but the power bar is very short. That means it's not very common. Next, we have another consonant. What is the sound this consonant makes? This consonant says D, D. D can be spelled with this letter. What is the name of this letter? This is a D. One D says D. And looking at the power bar, it looks like it's very common for D to be spelled with one D, like in dot. It's much less common to have two Ds, but sometimes two Ds together say D, like in add. There's one more example too. Sometimes you can have an ED that says D. The power bar is short, so it's not very common, but it can happen. The last consonant we're going to look at today is the sound G. And what letter do we have for the sound G? We have a G. The power bar is almost all the way across. That means it's very common for the G sound to be spelled with one G, like in gift. This power bar is shorter, but we can still see it. Sometimes G will have two G's, like in egg. Next, we're going to practice some more of our lowercase and uppercase or capital letters. Let's start with the letter I. I says I. We want to draw the lowercase I by writing a short line down and then a small dot atop of it. The capital I needs a long line from top to bottom, and then a short line across the top and a short line across the bottom. Next, we have the letter O, or Ah. We're going to draw a circle below the middle dotted line for the lowercase o. For the capital O, we need to draw a big circle that goes all the way from top to bottom. Next, we have T, or the sound T, T. We want to draw between the top line and the middle dotted line down to the bottom. Not quite all the way to the top. And then a short line across. The capital T is a long line down and then a short line across the top. And lastly, we have D, or the sound D. For a lowercase d, we draw a circle to the left and a long line down. Oh, I made a little mistake. They need to be connected. A long line down. There we go. I fixed mine. You can always fix your letters if you make any mistakes. For the capital D, start at the top and draw a long line down and then a half circle to the right, but it needs to go from top to bottom. For the second page, you'll do the same thing you did yesterday. Read the words and find the picture that matches. Cross them off as you go. Keep up the great work!